Hi there, I'm Sarah, a transformer at the Ready, and I am really excited by the smart questions that came in from our newsletter readers and subscribers. So thank you for the questions. I'm here to respond to one today. The question I'm going to respond to is it possible to do cross-functional work well under a more traditional hierarchy and where decision-making is more centralized? That is a great question. So let me take a stab at responding to it. So yes, it definitely is possible. And when I read your question more carefully, two things pop up for me. One is the question of authority. So we're in a very hierarchical organization. Decision-making is highly centralized. What might I or one of my colleagues have the authority to do? And then there's the question of just what are the conditions needed to start doing some cross-functional teaming, some project-based or dynamic teaming. So I'm going to talk about both of those things, and let me start with authority. It is very important when you want to try something new in your organization, especially if you're not sure what's allowed or who you have to go to for permission, to identify something that you might try that is in the scope or realm of your own authority. So I would start by saying, look around. What is work that you are responsible for delivering, that you have decision rights around, that you can focus in on to start doing some cross-functional teaming? So what that might look like is, I have a project that I'm on the hook for. I have some authority around it. I have decision rights around how we do it. And there's an opportunity for me to get some input and collaboration from other teams or other functions. So I would start there. And I would break the pattern that we sometimes have in highly hierarchical organizations of saying, let me go all the way up the chain and get permission from my leader to go over to another team, their leader, and go back down the chain to identify someone who might come and do this with me. I would take a shot at doing that yourself. So again, if you're pretty sure, like, I've got permission to work on this, I've got the authority to do it in the way that I want to do it, identify some people who are in other functions or other teams who might contribute to your project and ask them if they will play a small role and try something new in contributing to your project so that you can get something started more quickly and have some control over what happens. And then the second thing is around just the skills. So in an organization that's pretty hierarchical, in an organization where there's not already a lot of cross-functional work happening, the actual act of building a cross-functional team or a mission-based team around a new project or initiative is probably going to feel pretty foreign to people. So my advice there is, one, access all the stuff that we already put out there. If you've been following our newsletter, you've probably seen some of our team chartering assets. Take those, don't reinvent the wheel, but start by identifying what are some small moves that I need to make sure that I can build a successful project-based team or cross-functional team. The other piece of advice I have is start really small. If you are, especially in the organization that you described, if you're thinking about taking on a huge project in a new way, a project that touches lots of different people and lots of different teams, that might be too big of a bite to take on right now. So start with something small. What is a small project that you need to deliver where you can imagine bringing in 2 or 3 people from other teams to work with you? The other recommendation is make it time-bound. So this makes it easier to say yes for folks whom you're inviting in. It also makes it easier to glean your learning pretty quickly, pretty soon. So say like, hey, I have a project that I have 30 days or 60 days to work on. I'm going to build a cross-functional team or a mission-based team around that initiative, and it's only going to last for that period of time. So hey, Debbie in marketing, can you dedicate a couple of hours a week just for the next 2 months or the next 6 weeks to work with me on this project? This is exactly what we're after. And when we've completed it, it's done. So what that allows you to do is start small, not have to jump the hoops of asking for permission. And also it gives you a bite-sized body of work to learn from. So trying some of the team chartering moves, trying some other moves that we know make for great teaming, like setting working agreements, clarifying decision rights of the team, and then try it out. And when you're finished, when you're ready to span that team, do a retrospective and glean your learnings. What worked, what didn't work. Hopefully you had a win. So that helps you not only practice new ways of teaming and get your work done in hopefully a more effective way, it also gives you a piece of evidence to go and show when you're ready to do this again, maybe on a bigger stage or with more people. You can say, we did this once, here's what we learned, here's how we're going to improve it, and we're ready to go again. Something that came up for me when I read your question was a reflection that cross-functional work is probably already happening. In any medium-sized organization, if not even some small organizations, it's very rare that an important body of work can happen just in one team or one function. What I started to wonder is maybe cross-functional work is happening in your organization and you're not really seeing it because it's not happening well. And one of the reasons it's not happening well is that it's not actually an intentional, sort of explicitly named cross-functional project or body of work. So in that case, it made me think about maybe the push here is how do we shift from implicit, accidental cross-functional teaming to really intentional and explicit cross-functional teaming? And it might be interesting for you to think about, is there a place where I'm involved in work where there is this sort of accidental, last-minute cross-functional teaming where I want to try something new and I want to try to make it explicit? And the shift is like, hey, I know I'm going to need to pull on X and Y function at some point in this project. Instead of just waiting and like pulling them in when I need them, what if I started by bringing us together and explicitly chartering like, hey, we've got this product that we're delivering for. Sure, I'm driving it or I'm on the hook for it, but I know I'm going to need you at some point. So can we just go ahead and say in the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, let's team around this together and get really clear on the role that each of us is going to play, really clear on the outcomes we're after and what good looks like, really clear on when the timing is going to be that we're going to need to pull each other in or hand things off to each other, and then set some containers to make it more likely to be effective. Like, hey, here's our meeting rhythm. Here's when we're going to meet and how. And here are some working agreements that we're going to stick to, which might include how we're going to communicate, the tools we're going to use, how we give each other feedback, how we do or don't meet deadlines, how we communicate about that. So yeah, so overall, I would say maybe this is happening already. If so, could you look for an opportunity where it's happening, but it's not really effective or you're not feeling energized by it? And is there an opportunity to try a little experiment around creating, instead of an accidental, unintentional cross-functional team, a real explicit one? So good luck. Really excited for the question and for the work that you're taking on. And I just want to encourage you again, it is possible to do these things in a highly hierarchical organization where decisions are really centralized, but you need to stay as close to your realm of authority as possible to make it doable. Start small and make sure you've got the tools and assets and tips to make sure that you're setting up a team that can be successful.